name's Ben, and I'm one of two creators of Chapter 6. Today, we're diving in how I edit my street photography when I went to Milan. This includes the presets I use, the mood I want to go for, and the use of masks. Without further ado, let's go into Lightroom. I've already made a selection and edited them, so I can show you the process behind them. In the first one, which was by the Milan Central Station, I quite like the way the lighting came into this sort of pillar. And actually, the original picture was shot horizontally. So this is the original raw file. I didn't like what was going on in the right here, just too distracting. What I focused on was basically this vertical scene with the pillars, the building, the lighting on the person. Going back to it, I really like it. Here I applied my low light boxing preset because I like the way it shaped the light already, and of course added different masks. So if we click O on the keyboard, we can see where the mask is applied. So here, by just clicking on subject, when you create new mask, you click subject, and Lightroom does a pretty good job in identifying what the subject is in the picture. And here it's clearly the people in the image. And here I just worked a bit on the highlights, raised a bit the blacks, and that's pretty much it. Raised the whites, sorry, not the blacks, and yeah, that's pretty much it. The other mask is just, you can see the difference. I just wanted to make it a little bit more dramatic and a little bit more contrasty by removing some of the light coming from the left, which emphasizes the light coming from the right. And you can see the difference, just adding a little bit more glare, a little bit more dehaze, a little bit less dehaze actually, I think, right? No, I just added a bit of exposure. This one, I mean, nothing crazy. You can see this is the before and after. This one's rather simple edit. Again, I just applied the low light boxing preset and added a couple masks just to emphasize the building and remove a bit of the exposure, lowering a bit the exposure on the left. Nothing fancy. This one was a little bit more work. So again, I think mainly for all these shots I used the low light boxing preset because I liked the way it handled the warmth despite it being a cloudy day. Just very overcast day. There was maybe a couple spots in light that you will see in the next few pictures, but overall it was a very overcast day, just dead lighting, which is not bad, especially for buildings like this, for an area like this. It offers some good soft lighting actually, which helps you practice playing a bit more with the actual frame instead of the shadows. You can see the difference. I removed a little bit. I went down a bit with the temperature because it was a bit too much. It was a bit too warm to my liking for this picture, and played with the masks. Like every picture, I like to use masks because it really emphasizes, or I can emphasize where the light comes from, where I can direct the audience to look at, where to look at into the picture. So let's say here I use this mask to emphasize where the light is coming from, add warmth because that's where the sun is hitting. Then here I found I thought that the floor here was a bit too bright and too distracting, so I used the mask to bring it down, keep it level with the rest in the background here, but subtracted a part of the subject so the subject stays in evidence. And just added another mask just to emphasize a little bit the actual center of the image, where it's called City Life. Could maybe even go up a little bit more, like this, and it just offers a more balanced picture. Next one, I really liked these staircases, and I was actually quite lucky with the way the clouds in this moment sort of opened up, so it gave more contrast in the picture. So the sun was hitting a little bit harder, and offered more contrast in the picture. Once again, low light boxing preset. I already quite like the way it shaped the picture. Again, I just played with the masks, and here I just wanted a simple, like a yin and a yang, light and dark sort of image. Mask 1, playing with the exposure, just enhancing a little bit the exposure and where the light is coming from, and the opposite in the bottom, really very, very subtle. I could even increase a little bit the exposure, but just go down with the blacks just a little bit. Actually, now that I look back at it, I want a little bit more contrast here, maybe a little bit less shadows, and that's pretty much it. The next one was very similar, same man going down the stairs, but I really like the way it's framed. The framing, I like the way the framing is because it leads the eyes to the subject, which is the man here. Here, masks are a little bit more, not complicated, but a little bit more intricate. So again, a main mask which shows where the light's coming from to emphasize the warmth and where the sun is hitting mainly. Then here to just remove, you can see the difference. Again, the bottom floor, I've just found it a little bit distracting, so I made it completely dark so I can focus on the subject and the area in the middle. This one, if you zoom in, I just used the brush mask just to work a little bit on his face and not give it too much warmth. Played a bit with the exposure so it's not just orange. Going back out, use this one just to emphasize a little bit. Very, very subtle use of highlights. Here there was no highlights, and here just emphasize a little bit the highlights. Nothing crazy. This one's probably one of my favorite pictures of the day. Moving on to this one. I love the man going down the stairs, the shape, the framing, the leading lines, the way it's framed, and him in sort of the middle of this whole intricate structure, I guess. Applied the preset and worked on the masks. The first mask I thought of, I immediately looked at where the sun's coming from, and is completely to the top left. I just used a brush, a rough brush, nothing too detailed, just to emphasize where, I guess, the light streaks come from. The before and the after, just a little bit more light exposure and a bit less clarity. No, just a bit of exposure. Actually, I could go down a little bit the haze just to emphasize it a bit more glare. Here, same, it was a bit too light, so to offer a contrast, move a little bit, and here where the light's coming from. Nothing crazy. Here is a before and after. And that's it. Next one, going up those stairs and looking down into the main area of this city life area. The concept is pretty much quite repetitive, and it's just understanding where the light is coming from and where the light, I guess, degrades in a way or fades. And you can just, the point where, at least in my opinion, the point is to emphasize where the light's coming from and where the shadows are surging, if that makes sense. So once again here, just emphasize where the light's coming from, and here it's from the left, from the right, my bad. And from the left, I darken it to offer balance and direction in the picture. What I did with this one also is, because the picture is quite the same color, quite monotone, but there is a pop of color with this person's beanie, which is very red. Now if I remove this, no. So I just emphasized it by saturating it a little bit and adding a little bit more luminance, so it really sort of stands out in the picture. Because if I did this, it almost removes the interest of the picture. I like this touch of color that comes in, but it's very subtle. I like it. This one, I really like the minimalistic aspect of this picture. The concept is the same, mask of the light. In this one though, I took the first mask, duplicated it and inverted it, so it's exactly the same, but it shapes or surrounds where the light with darkness, let's say, with shadows. So without it, you can see the difference it makes. And again, mask 2 for the subject, just to enhance a little bit the exposure and a little bit of the shadows. Nothing crazy. You see it before and after is pretty drastic in terms of change. In this one also, there was a couple distractions, like these little things on the floor. What I did is just remove them with the tool, which is called, I forgot, the healing tool. The spot healing, pretty much. Yeah. That's it. Next one. Once again, the concept, light, shadows, another shadow just to direct the viewer into the actual subject, because the path was a bit too illuminated for me on the bottom. And here, once again, preset, here, shadows, light and warmth. And this one, playing with the subject, mask 2, just offering a bit more contrast, a little bit more exposure and a little bit more clarity, so it emphasizes it being the subject. I don't want the viewer to direct its eyes where the man is, because he's sort of a secondary subject. The car sort of frames, but it gives interest in the picture. But personally, it doesn't direct me, oh, I'm looking at the car. I'm looking at the sign at the shop, at the food stand, I think. Yeah, here we can see before and after. Very cloudy, sort of dull day, but the warmth and the mask really shape the scene the way I want it. Next one, very close to this stand. I just like the man. I like the way the light hit the man, waiting for the green light. Before and after. Once again here, playing the shadows, to direct the light a bit at the top, the mask to emphasize where the light's coming from to the right, a mask of the subject, which is the man in front, and just where the light is not coming from, so emphasize a bit the shadows and the lower exposure. I really like this picture. I like the mood of it. I like the subject. I like his jacket, the colors, the man behind also, the sort of framing. I was thinking maybe to frame it vertically and do it like this, something like this. I think that could also work. Maybe a bit more like that. And I also like it because of the man in the background here. There's like 3 points of interest. The main one, this man, the secondary man, which is in the background walking, blurred, and I guess this is a third option, just to give context to the actual scene, which shows that it's someone waiting for a green light. I'll go back, there we go. I then moved to this place, which I forgot the name of it, but it's, I think it was a uni. And for a while, I've actually saved it in my maps as a place to go because I wanted to visit inside the cortile, which I found pictures very interesting, which I found the architecture very interesting. And because the light there was quite soft, I really liked the way it hit the actual columns and the buildings and the details of the architecture and the building. Once again, before and after, I like the people just discussing there right in the frame. This one I mainly used the rule of thirds there on the third here, and then the wall shaping on the left. Preset is applied, and the main concept is once again used. So just shaping the light and the shadows from the left, the main mask from where the light source is coming from, the bottom just to again direct the eyes a bit where the subject is, and another mask for the subject to just expose them a little bit with clarity and a little bit higher exposure, just to make them stand out a little bit more. And this, I think, offers a great balance from the columns and the architecture, but also the people discussing, a human element. I guess it also offers a sense of scale to just show the beauty of the architecture next to human elements. This, once again, nothing crazy. This one I actually didn't use any masks because I quite liked the simplicity of it. I applied the preset, made it actually a little bit warmer because you see if I applied the preset, because of the lighting was so white and dull that I had to add more warmth in order to match the other pictures. Here it's the same corner as before, just when I went back to it. Just slightly different angle and one person walking by it, but the concept is exactly the same. Mask here, subject, and this one, usually the mask that focuses on adding more shadows and blacks and lowering the exposure really shapes the picture because it really directs the eyes where the subject is and where you want to look at. Because without it, it almost becomes quite plain and like, okay, boom, it's right there. But with the tint of shadows, it gives more direction and more depth even, I think. And moving on to the last picture, which is away from this building. Here I was just walking. I was actually pretty much finished the shooting, but I really liked this neon light and the whole scene. What I did is, instead of just taking the picture of the front of this building, I waited of a sort of a subject or secondary subject, because the subject is this light neon sort of titles and lights, the symmetry, everything. I think that's the subject, the main interest point. But having this car passing by, it just offers a secondary point of interest, especially with the light reflecting on the windscreen and the bonnet. Just offers that little point of interest, which I think is crucial to make a picture slightly different from the others. Once again here, preset applied. I added a bit more warmth because I wanted a bit more oomph, and matching also the other set of pictures. Here, mask to emphasize the lights. Duplicated and inverted that mask like how I did with this picture. Same concept applied here. You see makes a huge difference. And then applied a third mask just to emphasize again the direction of the viewer, of the eyes, because I thought it was a bit too light on the top, so I added another linear mask to remove some of the exposure. Export the pictures, and there you go. That's about it. I hope you found this video interesting and valuable to you, just to understand a bit the behind the scenes of how I personally edit my pictures, how I edit specifically my street photography by using masks and presets. Feel free to like, share the video, and comment down below if you have any comments or anything to say, any views, opinions, criticisms, anything. We appreciate your feedback and your support. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Subscribe. I need to drink. I'm losing my voice. Subscribe if you haven't yet, and follow us on our socials linked below. My Instagram is Ben Lusci, and Andrew's Instagram is Andrew Molchan. Thank you for watching, and see you next week.